What's going on, everybody? Sam's back, and today we're going to be talking about considerations for training your rear delt at home. Now, before we get into it, we need to understand muscles and their ability to produce force. So generally speaking, when muscles are in their shortened position, they have a low potential for force production, and as they approach a more lengthened position, they increase in their ability to produce force. So let me give you guys an example. My bicep is relatively weak here, and as it lengthens, it increases in its ability to produce force. We're going to talk about what this means when it comes to trying to train your rear delt at home. So when most people look to train their rear delt, they typically resort to a bent over reverse fly variation with a dumbbell. Now, this is not optimal because, as we've previously discussed, muscles and their ability to produce force is very high when they're in their lengthened range. Their ability to produce force is also high in their mid-range, and they get progressively weaker as they shorten. Now, with the bent over reverse fly, when my rear delt is in its lengthened position, the resistance demands that are placed upon it is very low. As the muscle shortens, the resistance demands that are placed upon it increases because the load is getting further away from my shoulder joint. This is happening as the rear delt is shortening. As the rear delt is shortening, it's getting weaker. So I have this exercise where it's very easy, where my muscle is the strongest, and it's getting harder as my muscle gets weaker. As a result, I end up really only challenging the rear delt through this portion of the range. And I may move my shoulder joint through somewhat of a full range, but I never end up really challenging the rear delt through its entire range. So what we have to end up doing is manipulating our body position so that we can challenge the rear delt appropriately through its entire full range. So instead of doing a bent over reverse fly, what we can do is we can try to create an exercise that matches the rear delt's ability to produce force. So how we can do this is we can lie on our side, and I'll demonstrate this in a minute, but what this does is we create an exercise where it's really hard where my muscle is the strongest, and the exercise gets easier as my muscle gets weaker. Therefore, we create what we call a match. Alright, so to perform the sideline reverse fly, all you're going to need is a water bottle, and you're going to want to fill it to the top with some water. Now, for most of you, this will result in about 2, maybe 4 pounds of load that you can use. You guys might think, oh, that's not enough load, I'm going to need more weight than that. But load is only one consideration when talking about resistance, especially the resistance that we place upon our body. Okay, if I were to hold this water bottle in close towards me, intuitively we know that's easier than holding it out in front of me, even though the weight doesn't change. The reason being is because the resistance I experience is a result of however much this bottle weighs, multiplied by how far away it is from my shoulder joint. So the resistance demands that are placed upon my shoulder is greatest here. It's a little bit less if I held it in halfway, and it's even less if I held it in close towards my body. So where I'm going with this is, just because you have 2, 3, maybe 4 pounds of resistance via water, because the load is so far away from our shoulder joint, it results in a lot more resistance than what people would assume. So we're going to get into this exercise. I'm going to be lying on my side, and what I want you guys to think about is keeping your bicep facing the ground. So here's what it's going to look like. Now, like I said, because the load is really far away from the shoulder joint, there is a great inertial component as we move. So we really got to focus on decelerating the load as our arm comes across our chest and controlling the acceleration on the way up. Alright guys, that's going to be it for training considerations for the rear delt. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found some useful information out of it, and we'll see you guys next week.